No matter if you're new to Godot or you just want to make a simple 2D platformer, then this video is for you. We will do or create something similar like this here. There will be no assets needed, so you can just focus on prototyping. The tutorial will include player base movement, variable jump height, coyote time, and also a jump buffer. So let's create this. Before we dive directly into the engine, let's talk about game development in general first, and why we will do this tutorial without assets. So in game development, people often when they start are attracted to the art. They begin to design assets, but later they notice the mechanics don't fit the assets and everything goes again. So first you will have to do the mechanics and build the systems. Later on top, you will create the art, polish, music, textures, and so on. That's why we use no assets here. They don't matter in the first place. Well, except the character, maybe. But we will come to that later. It is important to get the mindset of prototyping here. That it's enough, for example, if you do an FPS shooter, that you don't need cool animated hands in the first place. You just need a capsule, a gun, the right perspective, and the core mechanics. And when this is fun, you can go and do the polish. In game development, it's all about the so-called 3 C's when you start out. This means you have to care about camera or perspective, the character, and the controls. Let's start with the camera here. As I already said, the perspective matters a lot. For example, if you want to do a top-down game with very zoomed out perspective, then you maybe don't need too detailed assets. The opposite goes for the first-person view. There you will need a lot of detail. So the perspective really defines your level of detail and design, for example. And of course, how the player will perceive the world he's playing in. Zoom also matters. Maybe take Warcraft 3, for example, an RTS where you can have the bird view, but you can zoom in to see the selected unit in detail, which is really cool. And yeah, the canvas size matters. In which resolution, on which device you want to run that game. For example, the Steam Deck, maybe you want to make a game in 16:9, so it's full HD or 4K. Or maybe you want to do a pixel art game, like 480 by 270. That is easy scalable up to HD. That matters first. You have to determine this first before you go deeper. Then we go into the character. Of course, the look matters. What he can do should be reflected by the design. A warrior will not be a lean guy with glasses, I guess. He will be muscle-packed, have maybe a beard and a big axe in his hand. Blockout shape is essential for prototyping because you will have to determine the collision. When he's really bulky, then you need a bulky collision shape. And the exact size would be also really great, because in combination with the canvas size we talked earlier about, making these two things or parameters clear, it will be a lot easier to design your levels. Let's go to the controls. Buttons are important. You have to define which buttons do what. It needs to be accessible. So no crazy finger acrobatics on the keyboard, please. Don't overcomplicate it. It's good to have, beside of the movement, maybe for the left hand with WASD, 2 or 3 buttons for core mechanics, but not more. That will overwhelm new players. Then orientate on known patterns. As I already said, VASD for movement is really common. Use that. And with this knowledge, we maybe now know a little bit why I do this tutorial, how I will do it, and let's now jump directly into the Godot engine. We go on create for new project. We create a folder. Here, let's create one on the desktop. Select current folder. We call it 2D platformer. I don't know, prototype. We can leave the rest as it is and press create and edit. And there we are in the Godot engine. Let's go to 2D. And there we have it. Godot is arranged in so-called nodes. You can imagine it like a tree with a root node, and there go branches from it. This keeps structure and makes it really easy to orientate. We now want to make a 2D scene. And we call it level or world. This for now looks really empty. Of course, we want to save it. World. Save. And there it is. Yeah, as I said, it really looks empty. Before we want to do the player, let's make something he can walk on so he doesn't fall forever. Let's press plus, and here you can create or add new nodes. Let's go with the static body 2D. And you see, this is created as a child or branch, if you want to, of the world. Plus, we will need another node here, collision polygon 2D. Gives us a little warning here because we defined nothing, but yeah, make sure you press this little green area here, and then we can actually start with left click of the mouse, right click if you're not sure or you think it's the wrong place, just right click and it's gone. But yeah, let's now start adding points. Maybe here the character will have to jump, slope, and let's define an area where 2 jumps are necessary. Yeah, like this. So for testing, maybe so we don't have to code player death and respawn at the first place, we just make sure the player can't fall off the map. Here. One more point, and after that we can connect it, just so. And there we go. We have a simple level. We can adjust if you want. Then we go here. We can just drag it if you want to change something. But for now, I'm fine with this. And of course, don't forget to save. And then we can start bringing our player in here. Let's now add the player. For that, we will open a new tab here. Go for node. Hoppla, other node. We're searching for character body 2D. Let's immediately give it a better name, player. But we will need more nodes to make the player actually work here. Let's start with a collision. A collision shape 2D would be enough here. We will also need a character sprite. Which is a sprite 2D. And also a camera. Oops. I want it like so. Let's give it a collision shape. We can move the viewport here by clicking the mouse wheel. Hold it, and then you can drag and move around. And use the mouse wheel scrolling to zoom in or out. Okay, so let's go to the shape. I will go for a capsule. And I want my character maybe a little bit bigger here. We can go on transform and then do the scale here. We can also adjust it manually here. Yeah, let's go for something like this maybe. That's a collision. And now we go to the sprite. So the character actually looks like something. We have by default this little Godot icon here. And we can just, let's go with transform. That's easier. You can just click and hold it and then drag it to the left or right to scale like this. Let's remove this chain here so we can edit them manually. Yeah, let's make it fit the capsule collider. Yeah, like so. Maybe let's be a little more generous with the collision here. So, hopla. Yeah, like so. Will do. Now we have the basics, but a script is missing. We can attach a script or create a script here to the player. You can leave the rest as it is, and let's press create. Now we're here in script view if you want to. We can change back to this viewport view by clicking here above. But let's now go into the script. By default, there comes a simple platformer script, which is cool and we can already use and work with. Let's save it. And there we go. We can now, to the world, drag our player. There we go. Oh. By clicking this move mode here or hitting V, we can select the player first, and then we can align it. By clicking here above, we can run the current scene and go to playtesting. For now, we have a problem here. The character moves and he jumps, but we actually don't see our test scene. This is bad. So here we are back, debug mode, and then we can go to visible collision shapes. And there we go. And there we have it. A playable character which can jump and move around. So far so good. But of course, if you have come to this point, well, it doesn't feel so great if you play it, right? So let's fix this. First of all, we want to go back to Player tab, then go to our script. There we see this constants here. The speed is defined with which the player moves. Let's make him a little bit faster, maybe 500. And the jump velocity, don't get confused here, is negative. Let's make him jump, I don't know, a little bit higher here. We can save. And then let's directly test it. Oh, in the player scene. Don't get worried, we go back to our world. Now we are in our world. And now we can play. Yeah, it's way faster. Maybe a little bit too fast, I guess. The jumping was okay before, I think. But yeah, let's go back to the script. Let's go to 400 here and there to 300. I think that's fine, but you can twist and tweak it as you wish later on. Test it for a second. Oh. Okay. We have to go higher. Maybe 450. Yeah, like so. That's already fine here. But what gets on my nerves is I have to do to use the arrow keys to move the character left and right. Jumping is okay, it's by default on spacebar, but I want to have the buttons A and D instead for moving left and right. So let's come to the controls now. We go to Project Settings, and then there's an input map that handles all the input actions. We can add a new action here. Maybe let's just call it left and add it. And then we need right and add it. Then we have these actions, but they're not assigned already to a button. So let's hit the plus button left, and then you can just press the button you want to have assigned. So we want to go left with A. We want to go right with D. There we go. Now in the script, you will see here, get the input direction, handle the movement. We have to change something here. We have to replace it with left and right, as we called it here. We made it easy. So there we go. Now we can test it, and the character moves with A and D. Great. Now we want to adjust the jump a little bit. I think it feels kind of weird because we have the same speed going up like going down. That's not really realistic, right? So let's go to handle jump. This is the area where the jump is. Yeah, let's change it. Let's say if the player is on floor, if input action Yeah. If is on floor, we don't need that anymore. Oh, I forgot a tab here. Let's say, and again, let's say else if input is action just released, UI accept, which stands for jumping in this case. Let's go with this. But divided by 2. Let's test it. Yeah, we will. Let's do some more adjustments here. Let's in fact change it here. Let's say apply gravity. And let's go with a known function down here. Apply gravity. Oh, it will need delta here too. Okay. I missed something here. Just a moment. Yeah, it's always the tabs. So yeah, this should work now. We can test it. Does it feel better? I don't know. Let's say gravity scale. So gravity scale. Okay. Test. What did I do wrong? Am I blind again? I think so. I should include the gravity. That makes sense. Let's do 1.5. I want to see some difference here. Ah, that's better. It's like falling faster than going up. That's good. So let's go higher here, maybe 600, and I go to 1.8. Oh, that's already better. That's good. We will use this. So created a constant gravity scale. So this is 1.8 times the gravity times delta. We get the gravity, of course, and now it feels a little bit more realistic. Let's now come to some other super common platformer mechanics like coyote time, jump buffer, and the variable jump height. Let's begin with coyote time because I think it's the most important for the game feel. So what is coyote time? Maybe you have watched Roadrunner when you were a child and saw this coyote run off the cliff and nothing happened until he realized he was in air and then he was falling. So it's similar like this. Imagine falling off an edge and then pressing the jump button. If you just have left the ledge, then press jump. Of course, you're in air. Gravity is applying. You can't jump. But most of the players will press the jump button just when they left the ledge. And then it feels kind of off or like bad controls when the jump input is not recognized. Of course, that's not realistic. But for most of the players, it's important to make the platformer feel good. So coyote time is like a generous time window that starts when we have just left the ledge, that allows you to still do a jump input action. That's like milliseconds, like 0.3 or so, but that's enough to make the character that you play feel a lot better. And now we are going to implement this. Let's start with the constant coyote time. Oh, and we will also change this so everything is uniform and easier to read. There we go. So we have the coyote time. I for myself think it's 0.3 is a lot, so I mostly go for 0.1 or 0.2. So this is the time window, how much the coyote time will last. We need a var coyote timer. And then we have to maybe do an update coyote timer. Times delta, don't forget it in advance. Yeah, and then we go to the handle jump function. If is on floor, then coyote timer, coyote time. This is for resetting the coyote timer when the character again lands on the ground. Okay. So if coyote timer hoppla, zack. Then if is action just pressed, jump velocity, and then we need a coyote timer, and we have to change this here too, right? This is then elif. Elif input action is just released. And then because we have to add the func update coyote timer delta, if not is on floor and coyote timer bigger 0, coyote timer minus equal delta. Like lets the timer count down when the player is not on the ground. Yeah. Play. Well, let's save first. And now if you just leave the ledge, yeah, jumping is still possible. Tuck. That's good. And you can try falling just very close to the ground and then pressing then, and it's too late. But if I hit directly after leaving the ledge, yeah, just enough time. There you go. Oh, here it's more obvious on this ledge here. Yeah. That was too late, and there we go. This is coyote time. So we implemented the first of 3 mechanics. Let's go now to the variable jump height. Because every time you press, no matter how long you press the button, it will always result in the same jump height. But what we want to do now is if you press the button only a little, the jump will be smaller, and if you press it long, it will be to the full height. So back in our player script I think it's just 2 lines of code here. We're going, as I said, in the player script to the handle jump section, and then before the input section, let's put our code here and say if not is on floor and input is action not just pressed but just released, because it depends on when we release the jump button. In this case, it has the name, as you can see here above, UI accept. And velocity.y is smaller than jump velocity. And now velocity.y equal. Yeah, and I think that should be enough. Let's, yeah, I don't know. Leave a comment here with the hashtag first. That does nothing in code, it's just for commenting. Variable jump height, just for your info. If you feel like to, if it helps you maybe. Okay, let's see. We can test it here on the red block. Let's see if I press it to the fullest. We go like up until here. We'll just press it short. Ah, you see it? It's like on the half height. If I press it longer, we jump higher. That's what we want. A big improvement in game feel. Yeah. So let's move on to the jump buffer. It's similar to the coyote time, which gives you a generous time window to still do a jump input after you left the ledge. Yes, but now we want to have a jump input when we jump and we're falling. We're just before we are touching the ground. Some players are like when we're here, for example, and you hear it. I'm pressing, but the character does not really do anything. So some players are not so accurate, like on the ledge falling thing. And then we can make, just before landing, if you press here jump, we can make it count and make the character just still jump. That's the jump buffer, the last thing we want to implement. Yeah, so that took me some more time than I expected. Sorry for that. And to be sure we're not missing anything, because the script changed a little bit, we're going through it from up and go down slowly. So what I implemented here is the constant jump buffer time. It's a really similar mechanic like coyote time. So I give it a similar time frame. And of course, we need also a jump buffer timer here. I have here, like earlier, implemented an update coyote timer. And we also will need a function for the jump buffer timer that you find here on the ground. So let's go to the handle jump. If it's on floor, coyote timer equals coyote time. Then we got if jump buffer timer big 0. So jump if jump buffer is active, perform jump. If coyote timer bigger 0 and jump buffer bigger 0, jump on active coyote time or normal jump, perform jump, coyote timer and jump buffer timer for resetting. Then to the jump, if input is action, just press your accept, which is our jump. Jump buffer timer equals jump buffer time. With the variable jump height as before. Horizontal movement, move and slide, and then we come under the update coyote timer function. There we have the update jump buffer timer. Delta, don't forget delta. It's reducing, oh, I left it in German. It's reducing the jump buffer timer. So yeah, let's see if this finally works. I'm just inputting just before I land, and it seems to work. So that's quite cool. Now let's move on to something really important before we get into real twisting and tweaking. I'll show you how you can do that. We go to the canvas size and the camera of the player. For your prototype, it's essential to know which resolution you're going for, how big the tiles are, especially when you're working with 2D or classic pixel art, and how big the character is. Because if you change this afterwards, then the parameters you set here will not work the same. So please be sure of that and be mindful of that. Yeah, so I choose here 26 pixel character size, and now we want to go for this canvas size. It's really low resolution size that's more suitable for pixel art games, but it's easy scalable to full HD. So, okay, let's make sure we're in the right resolution. I already typed it in here. And then we go to the window width override, window height override. And this is only visible, I think, when you turn on the advanced settings. Yeah. So under display, window, and then here, I go for something that I can see with my big screen. Then we should be fine. Well, that's good, but we now want to set up the camera. If we already set the character height, we are fine with, so let's go with the camera. And that's relatively easy in Godot. We go to the player tab here, add a node, and there is a node for it. The camera 2D. You can see the radius. We can zoom in. It's already tested. See, it's already following. It's like really stiff. And I don't know if I like this position. We can adjust the camera here. Position smoothing. You can set it to pixels. Like, let's see what happens when we do one. Oh, in the wrong tab. Then it really takes time to adjust to the player movement. That's maybe a little bit too slow. Always feel free to experiment with the values. Maybe 10. I'm always doing this. Why? Okay. Yeah, this feels better. A little bit more smooth. So in transform position, yeah. We can also give it a different position like here. That would, well, only make sense if we most are moving down, but let's imagine we want to jump on a high tower, and in our platformer it's mostly about going up. Then we'll set the camera in a way that we don't see much of the down part. We want to see what's coming next in the upper part. Yeah, a little bit better. So now that we have the real necessary things in an environment, we can change and adjust. We could, for example, we could just say, let's do another static body 2D and another collision polygon 2D. We want to add points here. Then you can move on creating more stuff for the player to reach. Yeah, maybe a little bit narrow here. Maybe you will do it better than me. And so on. Yeah, so in my own project, I added some more complex mechanics like climbing, stamina while climbing, air resistance, friction, gravity scale. If you're interested to see more stuff like this, and maybe you also want to have these mechanics in your own project and yeah, just tell me, and I will try to provide a tutorial in near future. And yeah, thank you for watching, and that's all for now. See you soon. Bye bye.